Part 20. The contemporary academic god is secretly a charlatan. Author, Luo Meyer. Chapter 191. Chapter 191 Dance Competition. Bai Suiyu's cultivation has regressed because of Mu Qingjian, and now she wants to kill her. The queen looked at her niece with a distressed expression. The queen clapped her hand. Don't worry. Auntie will say this for you. Isn't she good at dancing? Then let Yuxi win her over for you. Bai Suiyu said with excitement, Auntie, is it true? Sister Yuxi is the god of dance. If Sister Yuxi steps up for me, I will definitely win her. After all, Sister Yuxi is the best dancer in the god realm. How can she, Mu Qingjian, better than Sister Yuxi? The queen sneered, she can also dance. If she can't beat others at what she's best at, then she's a loser. A maidservant walked beside Yuxi and said something. Her expression changed and she nodded. Well, I know, I will win her. If I win, let the queen not forget her promise. The maid left respectfully and returned to the Queen of Heaven to tell her what U11 had said. The Queen of Heaven nodded. Yuxi received the affirmation and slowly stood up. Goddess Mu, why don't you perform a dance for each of us? I heard that Goddess Mu is very good at dancing, and Yuxi is looking forward to competing with you, Yuxi said with a polite smile. At this time, Bai Suiyu immediately became arrogant. Do you dare to dance with my Yuxi sister? Who doesn't know that my Yuxi sister is the #1 dance in the god realm? Do you dare to compete with her? Humph, promise me if you have the ability. Sister Yuxi, why should you be the disciple of God Gu Tianzun if the gods are convinced? Bai Suiyu looked at her with an arrogant look. Mu Qingjian leaned on the chair, while Bingfeng fed her fruit, but she did not speak. The grumpy Dandan raised his finger and pointed at her angrily. Where are you from, you ugly monster? Why do you let my master come out to compete? Who do you think you are? Aren't you the same scumbag that was beaten to a pulp by my master yesterday, Ash? Wasn't yesterday's lesson enough? Bai Suiyu was so angry that she vomited blood when she saw a 5-year-old kid pointing at herself and cursing. Whose child are you? Why are you meddling in adults' matters? You are just a maid and your master didn't say anything. Why are you meddling in it? Eggy rolled his eyes. I'm afraid you're blind, you ugly man. Believe it or not, I can slap you to death. Do you think you are an adult because you are taller than me and have 2 ounces more fat on your chest than me? Bai Suiyu was ashamed and angry. You are shameless. Dandan showed his flawless white teeth. Look at my teeth. Do I look like the kind of person who has no teeth? They are whiter than you. Mu Qingjian smiled and rubbed Dandan's head. My Dandan is young, ignorant, and outspoken. I hope you won't take offense. You must not be rude, Dandan. How can you tell the truth? You still haven't apologized to this goddess. After finishing speaking, he looked at Dandan pretending to be serious. Oh. Okay. I'm sorry, you ugly guy. It's my fault. I shouldn't have hurt your inferiority complex by telling the truth. Dandan had a sincere expression on his face. Bai Suiyu was so angry that she couldn't speak. She sat next to the Queen of Heaven and stopped talking. The Queen of Heaven saw that this team of masters and servants were so shameless. The first one, who was her age, asked Xiao Xian to apologize, so that the gods could not accuse a child. The Queen of Heaven held Bai Suiyu's hand comfortingly. Goddess Mu, it was you whose tone was wrong just now. You still haven't apologized to Goddess Mu. I'm sorry. Bai Suiyu said with an aggrieved expression, extremely unwilling to do so. Mu Qingjian couldn't help but sigh. This queen's scheming is really very big. He was scheming, but that didn't mean he fell into her scheme. I don't know, you thought we were bullying her, Bai Suiyu? She said something so ignorant and felt wronged when she apologized. You know, sometimes trouble comes from the mouth, and others are not as generous as me. Okay, I have to accept it reluctantly. You apologized. Mukinjian had a very generous expression on her face. That shameless behavior made the Queen of Heaven stiffen her face, but she still maintained an elegant smile. Thank you so much to Goddess Mu for not caring about it. I thank you for your. Haha, you're welcome. Mukinjian smiled happily. Haha, Si Nanja burst into tears with laughter. Yuminjai glanced at him and said, why are you laughing? There's nothing funny about this. Isn't this funny? Your point of laughter is too high. Han Yexuan looked at her lovingly, still so naughty. Now, our goddess of heaven, the goddess of Yuxi, will perform a dance for everyone, a maid said solemnly. Okay, I haven't seen the goddess dancing for a long time. No. You must know that Jade Girl has always been at the top of the list of dancing gods in the divine world. She is worthy of being the number one dancing in the divine world. It's hard to say now. After all, I was lucky enough to see the goddess Mu dancing yesterday. It was pretty good. Okay, it's useless to say anything now. The winner will be determined by the dance competition later. A group of young male gods and goddesses were speculating one after another, making it very lively. The world of gods is not like the ancient one, where dancing is learned only by dancing girls. Although there is no modern openness in the god realm, they do not have the kind of thinking in ancient times. The god realm is still very free. The gods watched Yuxi take small steps onto the stage step by step, and saw her nodding to indicate that it was time to start. Soon, the melodious melody of music sounded, and the crowd of gods fell silent. Wearing a white silk dress embroidered with lotus flowers, exquisite makeup and hairstyle, and slightly exposed shoulders, countless male gods watched intently. I saw Yuxi dancing gracefully, with a light, elegant and graceful dance. Every step was so carefully designed and beautiful. What a beauty! Beauty with beautiful dance is the real perfect match, and the goddess and Jade Girl are indeed worthy of the number one dancer in the divine world. In terms of beauty, Ji Yunyan, the goddess of heaven, is the most beautiful, but Princess Yuxi is also pretty good. A wonderful performance. Amid everyone's cheers, Yuxi slowly bowed. The Queen of Heaven smiled with satisfaction on her face. I heard that Goddess Mu can also dance. I wonder if we are lucky enough to have a feast for our eyes. If Goddess Mu is not willing, then don't force it. Looking at the expression of admiration on the Queen's face, it slowly turned into a sad expression, with a big white lotus in full bloom. Mu Qingjian stood up with a smile. Since the Queen is so looking forward to my dancing, how can I have the nerve to disappoint the Queen? The Queen of Heaven smiled a little reluctantly. Who expects your dancing? Shameless things. When you lose the face of God Ancient Tianzun, I think God Ancient Tianzun will accept you as his disciple. But no one knew what the Queen was thinking, because everyone was deeply attracted by her dance. Everyone was extremely quiet. The Queen looked up at Mu Qingjian with a surprised look on her face, and soon she couldn't control her facial expressions. Mu Qingjian's difficult dance, her soft waist, and her beautiful and heart-stirring dance fascinated the gods and people present, and everyone hoped that all this beauty would stay here. End of this chapter. The contemporary academic god is secretly a charlatan. Author, Luo Meyer. Chapter 192. Chapter 192 Marrying a Wife. Han Yexuan looked at her and felt a little uncomfortable. He wanted to own her beauty and goodness alone. But he couldn't. He didn't want her to lose herself in front of him, and he didn't want her smile to become no longer beautiful. He suddenly wanted to hide her secretly from everyone. She could only let herself watch, and no one could touch her. He narrowed his eyes slightly, suppressing the riot in his heart. Mu Qingjian slowly fell from the air after dancing. Before she hit the ground, she was caught by a man wearing dark clothes. She opened her charming big eyes, and her delicate hands naturally wrapped around the man's neck. She buried her head affectionately in the man's arms, as if he was the only one in the world. Han Yexuan was very satisfied with Mu Qingjian's actions, with a look of satisfaction and doting on his face. A pair of strong arms couldn't help but tighten his arms around the little person in his arms. He lowered his head and kissed the mask on her forehead, as if swearing an oath to everyone. She is my person. Bai Suiyu watched him hug her. She didn't know what she was thinking at the moment, so she quietly looked at the two people hugging each other on the stage. When she finally saw him kissing her mask, Bai Suiyu, who couldn't stand it anymore, showed a vicious look in her eyes, as if she had decided something, and left directly. The Queen of Heaven came over with the maid beside her. I want to pay my respects to the ancient God. How come the God has time to come to Shenya Pavilion? Han Yexuan carefully put down the person in his arms and nodded. I will come to the Shenya Pavilion to have a look when I have time today. The Queen of Heaven will probably not mind. Shengu Tianzun was joking. The gods were shocked and happy that Tianzun could come to the divine accord today for Goddess Mu. It seems that Goddess Mu is really the only favorite of God. What a pity for Goddess Tianling. I heard the Goddess Tianling has loved Tianzun for thousands of years. What a pity, what a pity. The queen shook her head and sighed with regret. He held her hand and said, if the queen feels sorry for Ji Yunyan, let the emperor marry her, so you won't feel any pity. The queen's face turned pale. Haha, Tianzun is really good at joking. I suddenly had something to do, so I went back first. Shengu Tianzun, you guys have a good time. After saying that, he left without looking back. The gods were furious when they saw the Queen of Heaven, and everyone left the scene one after another. Han Yexuan also took her back without saying a word along the way, and just took her hand and got into the carriage. Dandan and the others saw that their master was not very happy, so they went back on their own in a sensible manner. Xian, what's wrong with you? Mu Qingjian saw that he had an angry look on his face. He had been silent since he got on the carriage, and now he was losing his temper again. It was really strange. Until he returned to the house, he closed the door directly. He suddenly hugged her, lowered his head and kissed her charming red lips directly. Mu Qingjian beat her chest desperately and kissed her for a long time before she lay softly in Han Yexuan's arms. He stretched out his thigh to push against her, giving her a place of support, but still did not let her go. She slowly fell into the deep kiss, unable to resist at all. He watched her eyes slowly blur, half squinting, and leaning weakly on his arms. He kissed Mu Lingyu's forehead with a satisfied look on his face. You can't dance in front of outsiders from now on. You can only dance for me, otherwise it was just a punishment, you know. Mu Qingjian was held in his arms with a shy look on her face. Are you angry and jealous just because of this? Why are you so domineering all of a sudden? I didn't do anything. Qing you are mine. I don't like the way other men look at you. I'm very jealous and angry. She smiled helplessly and said, okay, I will never dance in front of outsiders again, okay. Don't be angry now. Qing marry me. Let's get married now. I want to tell everyone that you are my woman. I want you to become my real woman. I want you. It was the first time that Mu Qingjian heard him say that he wanted her. His eyes were so sincere that she blushed shyly. Have you forgotten? We have obtained a marriage certificate and I am already your wife. Han Yexuan suddenly felt hot all over his body and hugged her uncomfortably. But I still want to give you a wedding. I want you on that day. I'll make people prepare in the past few days. I want to marry you. Okay, I've been waiting for you to marry me. When she woke up, it was already dark, and she didn't know how she fell asleep. Looking at Han Yexuan sleeping next to her, she couldn't help but kiss him secretly on the mouth with a successful smile on her face. As a result, he suddenly put a pair of big hands directly around her waist, deepening the kiss, and she was hugged directly by him, pressing her whole body against him. The two of them kissed selflessly until she fell softly into his arms. He put a big hand around her waist with a look of satisfaction on his face. Ching-er, don't tease me easily, otherwise I will be unable to control myself and want to kiss you, he said in a domineering, low and magnetic voice. Mukingjian quickly surrendered. I will never dare to kiss you again. I was wrong. Han Yexuan hugged her waist. No, you can kiss me secretly, because I am yours, and if you don't want to kiss me, then who do you want to kiss? No, I just want to kiss you alone. He smiled happily. Yeah. That's how good you are. While having dinner, one of the two is responsible for feeding and the other is responsible for eating. It is an extremely greasy scene, but it is extremely enviable. Maybe this is love. I'm full. I'm so full if I don't eat. Mukingjian touched her belly with a distressed look on her face. Han Yexuan stood up, picked up the person in his arms, and sat by the bed. He stretched out his warm hands to touch her belly, rubbing it back and forth. How do you feel? Comfortable? She closed her eyes comfortably. Well, not bad, keep going and don't stop. Okay. He just held the person in his arms and let her lie on him. He looked at her face while rubbing it, and when she fell asleep again in his arms, he silently covered her with a quilt. Then he stood up and left with a serious face. Say, what's the matter? White God Tianzun and Yuan Tianzun met tonight, and they don't know what they want to do, Dark God said. Oh, so out of control. What about Gu Yuxiao? He looked into the distance, as if he was remembering something. Gu Yuxiao didn't know that they met. He has been staying in his own palace, the secret guard continued. Well, continue to watch every move of Beishan Tianzun and Yuan Tianzun, and pay attention to safety. Yes. The next day, word suddenly spread in the god realm that Zhenggu Tianzun was going to marry his disciple Mukingjian. Everyone was shocked, including Gu Yuxiao. The wedding banquet will be held in 3 days, and everyone believes that this is true. When Bai Yushan in the demon realm heard the news, he was stunned and drank day and night to numb himself. Some are happy, some are sad, but everyone is looking forward to this day. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The contemporary academic god is secretly a charlatan. Author, Luo Meyer. Chapter 193. Chapter 193 Poisoning and Coma. Han Yexuan has been busy with the wedding banquet recently, so he is not in the palace. Suddenly, several men in black cautiously came to Mukingjian's bedside. One man in black picked up a sword and stabbed directly into the bed. Dong. The sword penetrated directly into the bed board. Seeing that she was dodged, the man in black immediately drew his sword, and the other men in black immediately attacked her. Mukingjian turned over, kicked the man in black, turned around and struck another man in black with her hands. He picked up the sword beside the bed and continued to fight with the other 2 men in black. The black man who was knocked down quickly got up and continued to join the fight. Dozens of hidden weapons flew towards Mu Lingyu. After dodging all the hidden weapons, he sealed their throats with a sword. But he still accidentally scratched his neck with a hidden weapon. Soon blood began to flow from her neck, staining her white underwear red. Although the arteries were not damaged, she was poisoned and even the blood she shed was black and red. Now she had to use her divine power to protect her heart. The wound stopped bleeding, and the poison was suppressed by her divine power. Fortunately, I have deep supernatural powers, otherwise I would have died from this hidden weapon tonight. 2 gods at the level of gods died in her hands like this, with their eyes wide open, as if they were refusing to rest in peace. The formation disappeared only after seeing them die. No wonder she couldn't sense Dandan and the others, it turned out to be their fault. Mukingjian suddenly vomited out a drop of black blood and fainted beside the bed. When Dandan and the others felt something strange, they rushed to the scene and saw her lying in a pool of blood. Master, here comes someone, Master has been poisoned. Han Yan Yan and Mu Yin Han rushed over and quickly came to her side. Looking at her covered in blood, I was so frightened. Master, Dark Flame, go and call the master back. This poison is very poisonous. Okay, wife, I'll go right away, and you can protect the mistress's divine veins. After saying that, he disappeared from the spot. And Han Yexuan sent people to protect the secret guards and all were killed, so he didn't know about it at the first time. Master, the mistress was poisoned and fell into a coma. Dark Flame said hurriedly. Han Yexuan dropped the wedding ring on the ground and stood up with a nervous look on his face. Dianyan, go find Guyuxiao quickly, I'll go there first. Looking at the white cloth bandage around Mu Qingjian's neck, the little black blood streaks showing through, and the clothes on the ground that had not yet been treated, he couldn't help but hold her hand with his big hand. Seeing the motionless person lying on the bed, he looked distressed. I didn't expect them to attack Xing'er so quickly, it's all my fault. Si Nanja consoled him, it's not your fault. We didn't expect them to dare to do anything. This poison is extraordinary and even we can't detoxify it. You don't have to blame yourself too much. Yu Minjai said in confusion, both of these two people were demoted to the god of sin in the god realm. Why did they kill her instead of you? I don't think it was the original Tianzun and the white god Tianzun who did it. Could it be someone else? Jealous of Mu Qingjian? Or Bai Suiyu? When Si Nanju heard Ji Yunyan's name, he was a little suspicious for a moment, with a hint of disappointment on his face. Han Yexuan's cold eyes said, if it's her, don't stop me, I won't let her go this time. Guyuxiao and Anyan came in and saw the worried and distressed look on his face, and he was actually moved. Han said with some surprise, let me see. He stood up and got out of the way. He quickly came over to check his pulse and smelled the poison on the concealed weapon. Demon King's blood grass, this poisonous plant is very poisonous. How did you find such an extinct and rare poisonous plant? This poisonous plant poison penetrates deeply into her heart. Even you and I can't save her. Then what to do now? How to save her? You must have a way. There is a way. Its detoxification herb is not far from the Demon King's blood grass. This should be easier to find. But the demon soul flower is needed to restore her divine power. I heard that this is the supreme magic treasure of the demon world and has been used for thousands of years. It is the mature time to bear only one demon soul flower, Guyuxiao said with a thoughtful look. Han Yexuan looked at him and said, where is the medicinal herb? I will send someone to find it. Demon soul Huabai Yushin will give it to me. In the depths of the demon world Soul Valley, because most of the demon emperor's blood grass likes to grow there, it will take a while. But she is afraid that it won't take that long. This is a heart-protecting pill that can last for a day. It needs to be taken once an hour, every day. This time we need someone with profound divine power to protect her divine veins. Guyuxiao took out the pill bottle and put it in his hand. He put the elixir into his hand again. I understand, brother, she will leave it to you. I will find the antidote and the demonic soul flower. Guyuxiao looked at Han Yexuan in surprise, not expecting that he cared so much about this woman. It had been a long time since he had heard him call him brother. This was the first time in 5,000 years that he had called him brother. It had been so long. Leave it to me, be careful, brother. Han Yexuan left on behalf of Si Nanju and Yu Minjai, heading to the Devil Realm Soul Valley. After the three people left, they came to the Devil World. Si Nanja couldn't help but ask curiously, Xian, why did you call Guyuxiao your brother? What is the relationship between the two of you? Han Yexuan showed a recalling expression, he is my half-brother, and he has the same surname as my mother. But my father fell in love with another woman, and then my mother took my brother and left the Han family. Go to the fairy world and leave me alone in the Han family. I was 10 years old and my brother was 15. The reason was that my mother felt that I looked like my father and was not like her, so she did not want to take me away. She hates me for looking like him. So when I came to the God realm and saw him, I knew he was my brother. Of course he also knew that I was his brother. It's just that we didn't have anything to say. After all, we haven't seen each other for hundreds of years, how could we still look like each other? I called him brother like that when I was little. Yu Minjai patted his shoulder. Okay, don't mention the past, it's been thousands of years. But the fact that you two brothers are brothers still surprises us. After all, if everyone knows that the original Tianzun is your brother, I dare to resist you and become the master of the God realm. Han Yexuan smiled bitterly and said, I can be the master of the ancient God realm, and it's not because of him. After all, he is the strongest person in the God realm. Gu Yuxiao looked at her, took off her mask, and showed a smile. It turns out it's you, no wonder you can make Xiaoxian work so hard, and you are still together after all the trouble. Feed her the elixir and use divine power to protect her divine veins. When Han Yexuan and the others came to the demon realm, they quickly picked antidote herbs, and now only the demon soul flower from the demon realm was left. When they came to the holy land of the demon realm, Bai Yushin appeared in front of them. What are you doing in my holy land of the demon world? You are not welcome here, get out. I want the demonic soul flower, give it to me. Bai Yushin's eyes were puzzled, why do you want the demon soul flower? Qing'er was poisoned by the demon emperor's blood grass. She needs the demon soul flower, so give it to me. I don't want to fight you. And you can't beat me, and I don't want to hurt anyone. Qinjian was injured, how did you protect her? He said angrily. He took out the demonic soul grass from the space, this is what I owe her, take it. Don't let her get hurt again. Never, thank you. Han Yexuan took the demon soul grass and immediately disappeared into the demon realm. Watching him leave, Bai Yushin showed an expression of relief. Qinjian, he loves you more than me, I wish you a happy life. End of this chapter. The contemporary academic god is secretly a charlatan. Author, Luo Meyer. Chapter 194. Chapter 194. Gu Yuxiao watched him easily get the demon soul flower, and quickly took the antidote herb and the demon soul flower. He took out the alchemy furnace to refine the elixir. Soon an elixir was refined and handed over to him. Ahem, the elixir is ready. After feeding it to her, you soak her in the spiritual spring. Then use your divine power to detoxify her and protect her divine veins until she vomits out all the poisonous blood. Han Yexuan's face turned red and he took the pill. I understand, brother, thank you. Gu Yu smiled and said, why are you so polite? Xiaoxian, please detoxify her. My brother is going back first. If you have anything to do, please see me. Okay, alright. He picked up Mu Qinjian, untied her clothes, and stripped her clothes with his eyes closed. But when his hand accidentally touched her smooth and delicate skin, his face turned slightly red. He took off his coat and soaked with her in a bathtub filled with spiritual springs. He opened his eyes and fed her the elixir, stretched out his hands and put them on her back. After a while, she vomited out a piece of black blood and fell into his arms. His hand accidentally touched the soft patch, and his face instantly turned red again. To prevent her from choking on the water, he had no choice but to hold her in his arms. Mu Qinjian woke up in a daze. She felt a heat in her body, and suddenly felt something cold behind her. She couldn't help but turn around and hug him. Han Yexuan was suddenly hugged by her, and he was a little stunned. Qing'er, stop making trouble, he restrained himself and gently helped her away with both hands. It's so hot, hug me, I'm hot and feel so uncomfortable. He looked at the strange look on her face and said, how could this happen? My brother didn't tell me that it would lead to such a result. At this time, Guyuxiao, who was in his temple, was happily drinking wine with a mischievous smile on his face. Brother, don't live up to your brother's kindness. You are not young anymore, you can have a baby. 5,000 years you're still a boy, so I'm afraid you'll hold it back, haha. The guard on the side looked at his master with a wicked smile on his face, fearing that the ancient was being tricked by his master. Han Yexuan looked at the person moving and rubbing in his arms. He had never experienced these things before, and he also knew what was going on with her. Ching-er, stop moving, I can't bear it anymore. Mu Qingjian raised her head and looked at his face in confusion. Her hands hooked around his neck, and the two hugged each other tightly. Looking at the blood stains on the bed and her flawless skin, leaving his own traces, he carried her to the bathtub, changed new water and bathed her. Put her on the bed, hold her and fall asleep together. When she woke up again, it was already dark. Mu Qingjian felt uncomfortable and weak all over. She vaguely remembered that the two had yesterday, and her face was red. Turning around and seeing Han Yexuan, she pinched his face in anger. He opened his eyes helplessly. Ching-er seems to be in good spirits. Could it be that I haven't satisfied Ching-er yet? Why don't we continue what we did yesterday later? After all, I think it's not enough. Seeing Han Yexuan speaking serious words that made people blush and heartbeat, she blushed and stared at her. Can I beg you to be a human being? I'm not a human being, so I just want to do inhuman things to you. Looking at her who was exhausted from exhaustion, he kissed her face. Go away, I don't want you anymore. Mu Qingjian tilted her head angrily, not wanting to pay attention to him. He looked at her angry expression amusedly, picked her up and carried her to the chair. He looked at her with extremely loving eyes and said, Ching-er is still angry. If she gets so angry, I'll feel bad for her. How about you hit me and I won't fight back? How about we eat something? Thank you for your hard work. Humph, I still feel pain in my hand after I hit you. I'm starving, why don't you come over and feed me? Now is your chance to show off, she said with a blush. Okay, I will serve my queen right now, he said with great affection and cooperation. I forgive you today. After dinner, she fell asleep again due to fatigue. Han Yexuan covered her with a quilt and left. Bai Suiyu stepped back and said in a daze, No. You can't kill me. I am the daughter of Baishan Tianzun, and I am the niece of the Queen of Heaven. You can't kill me. You hurt Ching-er, do you think I can still keep you? Bai Suiyu saw that Han Yexuan really wanted to kill her, and then she realized how terrifying the man in front of her was, and how she could have fallen in love with him before. If you kill me, my father will not let you go. Your father can't save himself now, do you think he can still save you? He stretched out his hand, directly disabled her divine veins, and fed her the demon emperor's blood grass. She struggled desperately, but there was nothing she could do. She was force-fed poison, but she did not have as high a level of cultivation as Mu Qingjian, and she died soon after. Just when her soul wanted to escape, Dandan suddenly turned into a demon dog and swallowed Bai Suiyu's soul in one gulp. She said with a satisfied look on her face, I still want to run, but it's not that easy. This time you will become my nourishment. Haha, Shenhun is just a supplement. I feel like I have become powerful again. Juhu looked at her, ahem, be gentle, Dandan, you are a girl now, you are a young man. You take care of me, okay, as long as you like it. White God Tianzun suddenly felt that Bai Suiyu's divine destiny card was broken. He didn't care about the fight between Yu Minjai and Si Nan, and went directly back to his divine palace. When he came back, he saw Bai Suiyu lying on the ground. He looked at the scene in front of him with disbelief. Wake up, don't scare Dad. He held her in his arms and looked at her with an angry look on his face as he watched her power be destroyed, her spirit disappear, and she could never be resurrected. Ah, Han Yexuan, you actually killed my daughter, and I want you to pay with your life." After saying that, he was about to explode his divine body. Guyuxiao suddenly fell from the sky, slapped him with a palm, and stopped his self-destruction. Beishan Tianzun spat out, "You, how do you have such strength? Who are you?" Guyuxiao threw the fake original Tianzun's body next to him. "It's just a fake. He thinks that being a primitive Tianzun means he wants to change the world, so just go with him." The soul of Beishan Tianzun was directly destroyed by him. Dandan looked at his soul being destroyed with a regretful expression. This would be a lot of nourishment. It's just that they took too much supplement and it couldn't eat it, otherwise it would explode and die. The gods in the God realm learned that Beishan Tianzun, Bai Suiyu, and the original Tianzun were dead, and all the gods did not dare to mess around. No one expected that something like this would happen, and the world of God would change drastically in one night. The person who died is still the fake original Tianzun, and the real original Tianzun Guyuxiao is still alive. And he is also the brother of the ancient Han Yexuan. Now no one dares to make small moves behind his back. After all, they are brothers. It is difficult to beat one person, so why say two people? Just like that, there is no longer a white god heavenly lord in the God realm, and the real original heavenly lord has also appeared in the God realm. End of this chapter. The contemporary academic god is secretly a charlatan. Author, Luo Meyer. Chapter 195. Chapter 195, Getting Married. At dusk the next day, she vaguely heard the voices of many people, and Mukinjian slowly opened her eyes. Dandan saw that she was awake and quickly crawled into her arms. "Master, you finally woke up. Today is your wedding day, so get up and put on your makeup." Mukinjian saw that she was wearing red clothes. Even Mu Yinhan and Mu Xingchen were wearing red clothes. She didn't know that she thought they were getting married. "Today is my wedding day, why didn't I know?" Dark Flame walked over in red clothes and said, "Mistress, a goddess will change your clothes later. All the gods in the God realm will come today." She yawned, "Okay, I get it." A few people looked at her with evil smiles on their faces. "Master, please get up quickly, the goddesses are here." Several goddesses walked in slowly and looked at her with respect. "Mrs. Tianzun, your clothes have been brought for you, please let us change for the bath." She nodded, "Okay, please." Several goddesses shook their heads and looked at her with astonished expressions. She was even more beautiful than the goddess Tianling. No wonder Tianzun accepted her as his disciple. "Mrs. Tianzun, you're welcome, this is what we should do." Seeing that she was about to take a shower and change clothes, Dark Flame led everyone out of her room. At this time, the entire God realm was red, and every was smiling. This was the most lively day in the God realm in more than 5,000 years. The gods sat in front of the table and looked outside the temple, expecting their appearance. Han Yexuan put on a red suit and took off his mask. From now on, he no longer has to wear a mask. Once he has changed his clothes, he will wait for her at the door. As the bridesmaid and best man, Dandan and Juhu appeared holding Mukinjian, who was dressed in red. Dandan put her hand on his. Han Yexuan looked at her in a red wedding dress. Although she was covered, he could imagine her beauty. The two of them got on the carriage and appeared outside the temple. He took her hand and hugged her down. Dandan and Juhu followed her and carried the tail of the group for her. Bingfen transformed into a flying phoenix and spread flowers in the air to celebrate. Mukinjian, covered with a red veil, looked at the scene in front of her and held his hand happily. After he sensed it, he clasped her hand tightly with a big hand, showing a happy smile. "Ching-er, I'm very happy." She looked up at him and vaguely saw his smile. "I'm happy too." The gods in the temple all looked at the two people wearing red wedding clothes outside the temple, showing their astonished expressions. This is the first time they have seen the true face of Shengu Tianzun. They did not expect Tianzun to be so handsome. Ji Yunyan looked at his face and felt extremely uncomfortable. She looked at him smiling happily. Her heart was extremely painful. She wished that the woman next to him was her, but she knew it was impossible. Bai Yushin glanced at Mukinjian, lowered his head and drank heavily, feeling relieved and regretful at the same time. The moon god shouted, "Welcome to the arrival of God ancient Tianzun and his wife." All the gods stood up one after another, and Han Yexuan walked in step by step, holding Mukinjian's hand. When the two of them walked in front of Guyuxiao, the moon god looked solemn. The flower hall is decorated with embroidery and music, and songs are played happily. Today we are holding a banquet to invite people from all four worlds to attend the wedding banquet of the ancient god and god. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to all distinguished guests for attending the wedding banquet in person. Today at the wedding hall, the deity Mukinjian married the ancient deity Han Yexuan. As the saying goes, Guan Guanjiju, in the river continent, a graceful lady, a gentleman, congratulations on their happy marriage. The sky is high and the sky is high, and the sea of people is vast. It is God's will for the two newlyweds to show their auspiciousness. It is a good match sent by God. For this reason, first of all, please ask the bride and groom to face the platform of heaven and earth, and bow to heaven and earth, to thank heaven and earth for their marriage. Bow dash, thank you. The auspiciousness comes from heaven. One kowtow dash. May the earth last forever. Another kowtow dash. I hope for happiness and health. 3 kowtows dash. Get up dash. Second bow to the high hall. The family is prosperous and the descendants are prosperous. The second bow to the high hall. The second bow dash. Thank you for the company of your relatives. 1 kowtow dash. Honor the eldest brother. Kowtow again dash. Bless the eldest brother with good health. Kowtow 3 times dash. Get up dash. Couple bows to each other. It takes 100 years to cross the same boat, and 1,000 years to sleep together. The bride and groom face each other, and the husband and wife bow to each other in front of the flower hall. Worship. The universe joins hands with the harp, and they kowtow together. The mandarin ducks and the husband and wife join together and kowtow together again. The husband sings and the wife kowtows 3 times as soon as she has a precious son. Get up. Finally, I invite the 2 newcomers to serve tea to my brother. The goddess on the side came over with a tea tray. Mukinjian took the teacup and handed it to Guyuxiao. Brother, please have tea. He happily took the teacup and drank it in one gulp. My dear sister-in-law, this is a gift from my eldest brother. I wish you happiness forever. She took the gift and said, "Thank you, brother, we will always be happy." He laughed loudly, "Okay." Han Yexuan took the teacup and handed it to him with both hands. Brother, please drink tea. He took the teacup with a look of relief. As a brother, I am very happy to see you getting married. Having a baby early will help us continue the family lineage of the Hanhu family. He nodded, "Okay, when Qing'er gives birth to a baby, I will take care of it for you. After all, we still want to live in a world of 2. But the baby still has to be born. Maybe in 10 months, brother, you can take care of us at home having a baby." Ahem. Guyuxiao choked. Are you kidding your brother? How can I, a grown man, take care of a baby? Han Yexuan smiled evilly and said, "Brother, as an elder, the eldest brother is like a father. If you don't take care of the baby for me, who else will take care of the baby for us?" Guyuxiao had a sad face and instantly felt that the teacup in his hand was so heavy. "Okay. As long as you dare to give birth, I will take care of you." He smiled triumphantly, "Don't worry about it, brother. After all, this is also your masterpiece." He chuckled and said that he had made the wrong payment after all. Mukinjian blushed and stretched out her hand to pull her, and said in a low voice, What nonsense are you talking about? I won't give birth to anyone who wants to have a baby. Ching-er, if you don't have a baby, how can he take care of the baby for us? You can't deprive him of his hobby of raising a baby. Huh, I won't tell you. Guyuxiao drank all the tea and said, come on, I can't escape anyway. The moon god smiled, the ceremony is completed. Send it to the bridal chamber. Mukinjian was sent back to the bridal chamber by several goddesses. She sat alone on the red wedding bed. As a first-time wife, she suddenly felt a little sad. After a long time, Han Yexuan came back slightly drunk. Ching-er, I'm back. He gently lifted the red hijab for her, and looked distressed when he saw the tear stains on her fair and smooth skin. Ching-er, what's wrong with you, why are you crying? She shook her head, it's okay, I just felt like crying suddenly. Han Yexuan held her in his arms, silly girl, why are you crying? I'm here. Okay, I know. He picked up the wine glass next to the bed and said, Ching-er, let's have a drink. The two drank from each other, and he placed the glass next to the bed. Mukinjian sat on the edge of the bed with a blushing face. Her shy look made him unable to control himself anymore. He gently took off her clothes and pressed on top of her. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The contemporary academic god is secretly a charlatan. Author, Luo Meyer. Chapter 196. Chapter 196 Triplets. Until it got slightly brighter, Mukinjian fell into his arms exhausted. After 2 days of hugging each other and falling asleep, Han Yexuan's strength has now exceeded the supreme level. This is the strongest person in the ancient world of gods. All this is due to Mukinjian. After all, they are now dual practitioners. It is good for both of us, and even her cultivation level has greatly increased. The two people's cultivation level has greatly increased, and they will be able to open up the modern time and space in another month. A month later, Mukinjian suddenly felt nauseated and violently vomited. Han Yexuan felt her pulse with a worried look on his face, and then picked her up with a surprised look on his face. Ching-er, you are pregnant, we are going to be parents. Ching-er, you are awesome. She stretched out her hand to touch her belly, feeling maternal love overflowing. Are we having a child of our own? I'm going to be a mother. Yes, Ching-er, you are pregnant. We can't go back to modern times for the time being. Because I'm afraid that traveling through time will be bad for the child, what do you think? She nodded, okay, I understand, children are important. Han Yexuan said with a happy face, Dark Flame, go to my brother's place and ask him to remember to take care of the baby when the baby is 1 month old in 10 months. We will let him take care of the baby then, and we have to go back to modern times. When Dark Flame learned that his mistress was pregnant, he said happily, okay, master, we will go and announce the good news right away. Guyuxiao was enjoying drinking red wine. This was given to him by Mukinjian. He felt good about it, so he took a lot of it. At this time, En Yan and Mu Xin Chen came over and looked at him with respect. Lord Primordial Heavenly Lord, my master has come to congratulate me. He raised his head with a confused look on his face. What good news are you reporting? What good news do I have? Mu Xin Chen smiled mischievously and said, Master Tianzun, my master is pregnant, and you are going to be a babysitter. Master said that if the child is 10 months old, please bring it to Master Tianzun, and ask me to bring wine to Master Tianzun. Ahem, are you kidding me? Did you really get hit? It shouldn't be. How is it possible that their cultivation level doesn't last 100,000 years? You must be kidding me, how could it be so fast? Guyuxiao shook his head and sighed, denying vigorously. Mu Xin Chen put the wine on the table. Master Tianzun, you will soon know whether what we are telling is the truth or lies. His hands shook. Ahem, that's still early. Maybe I have something to be busy with at that time. It's hard to say. Dark Flame smiled and said, the Master said, Master Primordial Heavenly Lord, don't even think about running away, because it will be useless no matter where you run. Guyuxiao was so angry that he vomited blood. Okay, isn't it just to take care of the baby for them? It's just the time to close your eyes. Tell your master, I will take care of the baby for them. After the two left, they handed over his words to Han Yexuan and the others. They were relieved that he was willing to take care of the child. After all, the child was still too young to travel through time and space. And if you let him carry it, the child will be safe. Mu Qingjian's pregnancy was relatively easy, and she did not suffer from vomiting. It means that she is particularly sleepy and unable to eat, and her belly is larger than that of ordinary pregnant women. Han Yexuan looked at her sleeping face and reached out to touch her belly. The child in her belly seemed to sense him and kicked her a few times. Several footprints bulged on her belly. He rubbed her belly and said, don't kick randomly, it will hurt your mother. As soon as he said this, the child in his belly stopped kicking, as if he could understand what he was saying. Mu Qingjian opened her eyes. Xian, you're back. Yes, are the children obedient today, are they not naughty? She touched her belly with a motherly look on her face. They are very well behaved, they can understand what I say. Qing'er will be born in a few days. Thank you for your hard work when you give birth. We can go back to see Grandpa Bo and Xiao Yu. I don't know how they are doing lately. After all, there is a time difference between us and them here, and I don't know if Xiao has grown into a young man. Han Yexuan hugged her lovingly. She should be almost an adult, but it is still very different from the mortal world here. There is 1 day in the sky and 1 year on the earth here, but the time difference is not that fast with modern times. That's good, then I'll feel relieved. Okay, Qing'er, please sleep a little longer. Modern. Bo Yi looked at Mu Xiaoyui and Mu Xiaoyu, who were almost as tall as him. He sighed, hey, I'm getting old. In a blink of an eye, you are almost as tall as me. I wonder if Xiao Qingjian will recognize you when she sees you. Brother-in-law, you are only 29 years old, not 59. If you say this in front of Grandpa, I'm afraid you will get beaten again. Go, I just want to see your brother-in-law and I get beaten. He saw that Mu Xiao had a face that was very similar to Mu Qingjian. When he grew up, he had long hair. He was very beautiful, but he could still tell that he was a man. Mu Xiaoyui was as beautiful as a girl when she was a child, but when she grew up, she grew into a very handsome boy. He also had slightly long hair. If you look carefully, you will find that they have the same hairstyle but different lengths. Moreover, both parties wear earrings of the same style, making them look like a couple. Mu Xiaoyui picked what he didn't like into his bowl and placed the dish in front of him. Xiao, eat it. Mu Xiao took it naturally and smiled, okay. Bo Yi looked at the two of them. Since they broke through the out-of-body stage, their looks have become more and more exquisite. There are a few people with such godlike looks, so it's not an exaggeration to say that the little girls chasing them can be sent abroad. But I don't know if it was his misunderstanding. I always felt that they didn't feel like brothers, but I couldn't explain what was weird about them. After all, they have grown up together for more than 10 years, and their close relationship should not be like what is said on the internet. The two went out after eating. Because Mu Xiaoyui was an adult, he drove Mu Xiao to school with him. Spirit World. At this time, Mu Qingjian in the God realm was eating grapes and suddenly felt a pain in her stomach. I'm about to give birth, balls, go and call Xian quickly. Dandan was so frightened that the grapes in his mouth fell to the ground. Master, hold on, I'll call the master right away. Without her having to call, Han Yexuan appeared and quickly picked her up. Ching hold on, I've already called the goddess. At the same time, people in the god realm became nervous. After all, no children had been born in the god realm for thousands of years, so everyone was still looking forward to it. Looking at her painful screams coming from the room, Han Yexuan could no longer bear it and walked in. The goddess looked nervous when she saw him coming in. Tianzun, you can't come in, this is not good. I am his husband-in-law, goddess, you continue to deliver the baby, there is no need to pay attention to me. He walked to her side distressedly and wiped the sweat from her forehead with a handkerchief. Ching I'm here. It hurts. He put his hand to her mouth. Ching bite my hand, don't bite your tongue, I'll stay with you. Ah! She couldn't help but bite his hand, her whole body was in pain. The goddess shouted while pushing her belly, Mrs. Tianzun, your head is out, please push harder. Haha, I gave birth to a big fat boy. Congratulations to Mrs. Tianzun and Tianzun, there are still 2 children in the belly. If Mrs. Tianzun works harder, things will get better later. A few hours later, the 3 children were born successfully. End of this chapter. The contemporary academic god is secretly a charlatan. Author, Luo Meyer. Chapter 197. Chapter 197 3 Sons. Mu Qingjian watched the goddesses take turns slapping the children's feet one by one. After hitting them several times, they burst into tears. This loud voice made Gu Yuxiao and the others outside feel relieved. Han Yexuan looked at her with a distressed expression. Ching take a good rest. Okay. After saying this, she fell into a deep sleep. He glanced at the 3 children. They were all boys but not a girl. He felt a little regretful. Because after what he experienced today, he was reluctant to let her have another child. The goddess and the maid had taken care of the children and were about to clean up Mu Qingjian. He asked the goddesses and maids to retreat, and took care of it himself. The goddesses and maids looked envious when they saw Tianzun handling the matter for his wife without any disdain. No man can do this. As expected, Master Tianzun loves Mrs. Tianzun very much. A few people silently carried a few children and walked out. As soon as the door opened, Gu Yuxiao looked at the children in their arms excitedly. When he saw there were 3 children, his expression changed slightly. They were all born to my sister-in-law. The goddess put the eldest son in his arms and said, congratulations to the original Tianzun for becoming an uncle. Mrs. Tianzun gave birth to 3 sons. He hugged her and smiled, haha, it's good, it's going well. Once the relationship is over, there is no need to give birth anymore. Looking at the child in his arms who looked very much like his younger brother when he was a child, he couldn't help but pinch his face. He thought he was playing with him, so he grabbed his finger and started playing with it. Hold a baby for the first time in 5,000 years. Except for Han Yexuan, it was his child. He had already forgotten what it felt like to hold a baby. I didn't expect that now that I was holding him, the father's love deep in my heart would be fully awakened. And Dandan and the others gathered around the 3 children, seeing that although they were just born, they were very fair and cute. Dandan, Bingfeng and Zhuhu rushed to hold the remaining 2 children. Don't let me hold you first, don't squeeze me. Mu Yunhan glared at Dandan and the others before they calmed down. He held his second child and teased him happily. They didn't dare to refute, because he was the boss, and they couldn't beat him. Even if they can defeat him collectively, Dark Flame will definitely avenge him. Guy like Dark Flame is a crazy doting wife maniac. Last time they collectively bullied Mu Yunhan, and ended up being beaten by him in private until their whole bodies hurt, and the injuries could not be seen. That guy Smolder is really cunning, and he won't stop beating them just because they are girls now. He will hit them without fail. Si Nanju and Yu Minjai looked at the 3 children. The eldest one looked very similar to Han Yexuan, the second one combined the advantages of the two, but the third one looked like Mukinjian. Each has their own differences, but it cannot be denied that they will be better than them in the future. Sci-Yunkin and Nangang Yuran came to the third child's side and couldn't help but sigh that Mukinjian was so powerful for giving birth to 3 children at once. They had never seen a person give birth to 3 babies at one time. It was so strange. Finally, it was their turn to hug. Nangang Yuran hugged the child who looked very much like Xiao Qinjian. He couldn't help teasing him and giggling at him. Several people couldn't help but laugh. Haha, this third child loves to laugh, he's so cute. Sci-Yunkin looked at him and said fondly, yeah. He is indeed very cute. In this way, the entire God realm knew that Mukinjian gave birth to 3 children. Now the God realm has welcomed the 3 youngest gods in 1,000 years. They have been gods since they were born. In the future, their strength will far exceed that of Han Yexuan and others, and they will break through to a higher realm. The gods also came to his temple to visit these 3 little gods, hoping to accept them as disciples, but looking at Gu Yuxiao and Yu Minjai who were present, it seemed that there was no chance. By the time Mukinjian woke up again, she already felt particularly dry and comfortable. Presumably he took care of it for her, because every time he would do it for her in great detail when she was tired. She blushed and sat up, when Han Yeshuan walked in with 3 children in his arms. Ching-er, you're awake, did the child wake you up? She shook her head, no, have the children eaten? The goddesses and the others have fed them some complimentary food, but now they seem to be hungry again. Then hurry up and hug them, I'll feed them. Mukinjian took over the boss, unbuttoned her clothes, and looked up at him when her fair skin was exposed. Xian, well, I'm going to feed the child, why are you still standing here? Han Yexuan stood by the bed with his second and third children in his arms, and said a little jealously, Ching-er, we are both husband and wife. It's not like I haven't seen it before. They can see my son, so why can't I? Looking at him and his children being jealous, I felt shy and helpless. She glared at him shyly and dissatisfiedly, and fed the child in front of him. While the eldest child was eating, Mukinjian reached out and hugged the second child and started feeding him too. Lao San turned his head to watch his 2 brothers eating enthusiastically. He looked at them in confusion and couldn't help drooling. Han Yexuan wiped off his saliva and said, don't worry. Your mother can only feed 2 at a time, so we can only wait now and we can eat them later. He looked at his father with his big eyes open as if he didn't understand. When the 2 children were full, Mukinjian put them on the side of the bed. Okay, they've fallen asleep after eating, give him to me. She hugged the third child and started feeding him again. He walked to the bed and sat down. Is Ching-er feeling uncomfortable? I heard the goddess said that the swelling will be uncomfortable in the early stages. So when you feel uncomfortable, remember to tell me. She blushed slightly and said, I understand, please lie down quickly. After feeding the third child, he will go to bed. He took off his coat and lay on the bed to watch her. Until the third child was also full, he placed him next to his 2 older brothers. He stretched out his arms to hug her. Ching-er, thank you for your hard work. Thank you for giving birth to 3 children for me. She lay in her arms with a happy face. Idiot, this is my child too. It's just your child again. They are our common children, so a little hard work is nothing. Han Yexuan lowered his head and kissed her mouth softly, but I feel so distressed today. I didn't know it would be so painful to give birth to a child. We won't have any children in the future. We have 3 children. It's enough. I don't want to see you in such pain again. Mukinjian smiled and said, although I cannot deny that it is really painful to give birth to a child, but looking at these 3 big fat boys, I am also full of happiness even when it hurts. And I have 3 sons, and I also want a daughter. I want to see what our two daughters are like. What others have, we must also have, and I also like daughters very much, so we still want a daughter. Okay, I'll listen to Ching-er, but let's talk about the daughter later. After all, they are still young and there is no rush. You can take care of them before we talk about it later. Okay, sleep well. Okay, go to sleep. After chatting for a while, she fell asleep from exhaustion. Han Yexuan asked her to lie down in the most comfortable position, and then he hugged her to sleep. The three children slept soundly inside without their parents holding them. Thanks to Xinjing for the 4 monthly passes, to the book friend 97 for the 1 monthly pass, and to the book friend 27 for the 4 monthly passes. End of this chapter. The contemporary academic god is secretly a charlatan. Author, Luo Meyer. Chapter 198. Chapter 198 The Gate of Time and Space. 2 hours later, Mu Qingjian opened her eyes again, looking uncomfortable. It was too high. She glanced at the three children. Since they had eaten enough an hour ago, they were already sleeping soundly. She then glanced at Han Yexuan shyly, but he slowly opened his eyes as if he sensed something unusual about her. Ching-er, are you still feeling uncomfortable? Do you want me to help you? She nodded shyly, yeah. I can't sleep. He slowly reached out and unbuttoned her clothes. She turned her head shyly, her whole body motionless. This blushing and heart-pounding scene made her so embarrassed that she wanted to find a corner to hide in. It wasn't until half an hour that she felt much better. Han Yexuan raised his head and kissed her red lips. I really want to eat you, but I can't do that. Ching-er, you have a good rest while I go out for a while. She blushed and nodded, okay, be careful not to soak in cold water for too long. Okay, I'll let you go now. You take a rest. I'll be back soon. After finishing speaking, the whole person disappeared from the feeling. When he appeared again, it was already late at night. He climbed onto the bed, took the children out of her arms, moved them inside, and then naturally held Mu Qingjian to sleep alone. The three children felt that the fragrant embrace was gone, and they had no choice but to fall asleep holding their brothers in their arms. 2 adults hugged each other, and the 3 little guys hugged each other and fell asleep. They lived in such harmony. Carrot. Carrot. It wasn't until after dawn that the 2 little guys were hungry again and started to make babbling noises. Mu Qingjian naturally hugged the 2 children and fed them, and then started feeding them in turn. Han Yexuan frowned when he saw several children drinking so many times in one night. Ching-er, why don't you feed them milk? Otherwise, it would be too hard for you to feed them all the time. I remember Yuanling God has a mythical beast that is a cow, so why don't you feed them milk? She shook her head and refused, it's not like I don't have any now. I can just feed them. After all, they are still too young. I can feed them milk after I finish confinement. That's fine. These 3 brats have given you too much trouble. You need to train them when they grow up. Mu Qingjian looked at him amusedly, you are a father, how can you care about your own children? They are already very well behaved. They don't cry or lose their temper, and they scream when they go to the toilet. Whose children are so well behaved? Of. He hugged her and said, okay, listen to Ching-er and forgive them. Okay, I want to eat. I'll go do it for you, you just lie down, I want to come back soon. Looking at his busy schedule, she smiled happily. In fact, her body had recovered a long time ago, but he was too careful and cared about himself. If she had to sit for a month like a mortal, she would have no choice but to obey him. As time goes by, the 3 children are 1 month old. During the full moon, the gods blessed them with blessings and gave them gifts. When they were born, they had the cultivation and treasures that everyone envied. Mu Qingjian and Han Yexuan were also about to leave for modern times. She reluctantly kissed the three children and handed them over to Gu Yuxiao and the others. He lowered his head and glanced at the three children. You guys should come back soon. Soon, let's go. The two planned to take Dandan, Mu Yinhan, and Anyan to the modern era, while Bingfeng, Juhu and Mu Xingchen stay in the God realm. Juhu looked at Dandan reluctantly, looking a little aggrieved. Master, I want to go too, I haven't been to modern times yet. Seeing him like this, he took him away because he always doted on his spiritual pet Mu Qingjian. Juhu immediately hugged Dandan happily and said, Dandan, I'll go with you so that you won't be alone. Dandan snorted dissatisfiedly, I don't know about your little thoughts. My Dandan will be a boy in the future. Don't think of treating me like a girl. I am the girl you can't get, and I want to be a man from now on. I've seen too many tricks from you, I'm a pure man. Juhu still held her hand shamelessly, it's okay. Whether you are a boy or a girl, I will take you. Dandan slapped him on the head, I treat you as a brother, but you want to sleep with me, what's wrong with your face? Juhu took her little hand and touched his face. Eden, my face is still there, are you satisfied? Dandan looked at his androgynous face, those charming fox eyes, and had to admit that he was her cup of tea. Bah, go away, Jupang, you actually used your charm eye on me. Juhu smiled awkwardly, he was discovered. Mu Qingjian looked at them and said, okay Dandan Juhu, let's set off. Dandan and Juhu's master called them and immediately ran to her side. Han Yexuan glanced at the faces of the three children, then took her hand and walked into the gate of time and space, disappearing into the God realm. Modern. The mother-in-law looked at Boyi and said, your son is already in his 30s. When will you let your mother and I take care of our grandson? Why are you running around here? Mr. Bo has given up hope for his youngest son. Well, old lady, your children and grandchildren will have their own blessings. He is not an ordinary person. It is easy to find an ordinary person as a wife, but it is not easy to find an extraordinary person as a wife. Let him look for it slowly. Boyi smiled and said, Dad, you are so right. Mom should be as sensible as my dad. Can I find an ordinary person as my wife? People are not allowed to call me a monster. The mother-in-law shook her head helplessly, well, forget it, fortunately, I still have two grandsons, Xiao and Xiaoyui. I can be considered someone who has raised grandsons, and you and I don't want to talk about it. Mu Xiao picked up the vegetables for Grandma, Grandma eats meat. My uncle is chasing a girl recently and may bring you a grandson soon. Really, haha, that's pretty good. Xiao, why don't you tell your mother? Then you should pursue it, and remember to bring it over to your mother when you have time. Boyi nodded awkwardly, I know, Mom, let's eat. Don't mention anything about me. Boyi then glared at Mu Xiao and actually lied to his grandma about why he was chasing that girl. It was obviously another girl chasing him. The person chasing him is Mu Xiao's classmate. Can he, a man in his late 30s, accept an 18-year-old girl? While the family was eating, Mu Xiaoyui and others suddenly felt a powerful force. The three of them immediately put down their chopsticks and stood in front of Bolao and the others. Grandpa and Grandma, please step back, we have an uninvited guest. Bolao looked at them and asked with surprise, who? Why can't we see? Boyi stood in front of them with a serious look on his face, Dad. There are strong people, not ordinary people. They broke the formation of the villa. They have never seen anyone stronger than him. Except for Mu Qingjian, there are few people with their level of cultivation. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The contemporary academic god is secretly a charlatan. Author, Luo Meyer. Chapter 199. Chapter 199. Back to modern times. At this time, Dandan and Juhu ran in excitedly, followed by Muyinhan and Anyan. A few people looked at a teenage boy with several children, each of whom was 7 or 8 years old and looked very similar to Mu Qingjian. Mu Xiao looked at him and said with surprise, "Xiao Yin? Is it you?" Mu Yinhan laughed, Brother Xiao Yui, it's me." Suddenly Dandan happily flew into Mu Xiao's arms, "Haha, guess who I am." "Xiao, why have you grown so big? You were still a little boy when I left." "Not bad. You look so handsome." Yes, he looks so much like his master. He looked at the girl in his arms with a look of shock. "You can't be Dandan. Because her voice is too much like an egg." Dandan hugged him and smiled, "Haha, Xiao, how did you know that I am Dandan? You are so awesome." Mu Xiao was really frightened when he looked at her. "Egg, I thought you would be a boy, but I didn't expect you to be a girl when you transformed into a human. By the way, my sister and the others are here. Are she and my brother-in-law coming back too?" "He's back. The master and the male master came back together. But we came back running, and the master is still behind us." He ran out with excitement on his face and looked at her and Han Yexuan outside the villa. "Sister, brother-in-law, you are finally back." Mu Qingjian looked at the tall and handsome Mu Xiao in front of her. She didn't expect that he had grown so big. She walked up to him and put her arms around him. "I haven't seen Xiao for a long time. I didn't expect that my Xiao has grown so big. Sister, I miss you so much." She looked at him with red eyes and crying, and rubbed his head in a doting tone. "Sister misses Xiao too, and I'm back. Xiao has grown so big, but I didn't expect that he still loves to cry as much as he did when he was a child." Mu Xiaoyui walked next to him, took out a handkerchief and handed it to him. "Xiao Yu, wipe your tears. We should be happy that my sister is back." Then he smiled and said, "Sister, welcome back, we all miss you." She looked at him and looked at his beautiful sapphire blue eyes, and she knew that the person in front of her was Mu Xiaorui. "Xiaorui, long time no see." He stepped forward and hugged her gently, "Sister, welcome back. Long time no see." Han Yexuan was a little jealous as he stepped forward and hugged her. "Okay, you guys have already hugged her, let's go into the house." Mu Xiao looked at him and glared at him. "Brother-in-law, you are still so stingy. You have dominated my sister for so long. Now that my sister comes back rarely, you still dislike us for hugging her. You will know when you have a daughter-in-law, and you will understand then. I am still very generous to your brother-in-law. I at least let you hug my daughter-in-law for a while, and I will not let anyone else touch her." "Haha, brother-in-law, thank you for your generosity." Mu Qingjian took his hand and said, "Okay Xian, let's go in. Why are you so jealous of Xiao and Xiaoyui?" At this time, Boyi also walked out slowly. "Have you reminisced about the past?" "Xiao Qingjian, welcome back, come in quickly." "Okay, we'll be here soon." Grandma Bo and Mr. Bo looked at her happily. "Xiao Yan, Xiao Xian, you two are back." "I'm back, grandparents, are you all okay?" Grandma Bo smiled from ear to ear, "Okay. Your grandpa and I are very happy that you can come back." Han Yexuan smiled respectfully and said, "Grandma, Grandpa, Qing'er and I are back. I'm sorry for making you worry." Bo Lao smiled happily and said, "Okay, just come back. I hope you come back safely." The whole family gathered together happily, and it was rare for Bojia to see so many people there, just like celebrating the new year. Dandan happily ate the ice cream, while Juhu imitated Dandan and ate the ice cream with a look of satisfaction on his face. No wonder Dandan keeps saying that there are a lot of delicious foods in modern times, and she really didn't lie to him. Bo Yi looked at Mu Qingjian and said, Xiao Qingjian, how long do you plan to stay when you come back this time? How are you doing there? It's good. We plan to stay here for a while, but not for long. After all, Xian and I have a newborn child, so we can't stay for long for the time being. Everyone was a little surprised when they heard she said she had a newborn child. What? You have a child? How old is the child? Is it a boy or a girl? Han Yexuan smiled happily, held her hand and said, Qing'er and I have 3 sons, triplets, but they all look different. The one who just turned 1 month old recently is still young. Grandma Bo asked kindly, Xiao Xian, when will you bring the children back and let your grandpa and I see my 3 great-grandchildren? Grandma, when the child is 1 year old, I will take the child back. But the child is too young now, and it is not suitable to bother with it. Mr. Bo nodded and smiled, it's okay. The safety of the children comes first. It will be fine when they are older. The 2 of us can still survive. We can live for another 10 or 20 years. Mu Qingjian took Mr. Bo's hand and said, Grandpa and Grandma, you will live a long life, even 100 or more years old. He smiled happily, haha, okay, I'll drag you down. Mu Xiao heard that her sister had given birth to 3 children and was happy for her. Bo Yi didn't expect her to have 3 children in her lifetime. It seemed that she was lagging behind and hadn't talked to her girlfriend yet. However, his own strength is not as strong as Xiaoyui Xiao and others, so he is still in the early stage of nascent soul. The 2 of them are already in the late stage of out-of-body experience and are about to break through the early stage of distraction. They are destined to follow Mu Qingjian. He probably will never have the chance to enter the fairy world again in this life, but he has no regrets. After all, he can live longer than others. The family chatted for a long time until late at night, when everyone went back to their houses to sleep. Mu Qingjian's room has always been cleaned by servants, and clothes, quilts, and sheets are changed every year, so they can stay up until bedtime. Lao Bo knew that they were married and had a child, so it was no big deal for the couple to sleep together. By the time Mu Qingjian finished taking a shower and walked out in her pajamas, Han Yexuan had already set his sights on her. She naturally knew what his look was like, and she looked at him shyly. You didn't sleep and waited until I finished taking a shower. What do you want to do? He looked at her with lustful eyes, held her in his arms, and said in a low and hoarse voice, Qing'er, my husband hasn't eaten meat for a long time, are you willing to make me suffer alone? And, Qing'er, don't you want me? She nodded shyly, not daring to look at his face. It's not that I don't want to, it's just that, I feel so ashamed. Then do more, Qing'er, and you won't be ashamed. More exercise will help improve your cultivation. Qing'er's cultivation has not improved in the past 6 months, so I think I can help you improve your cultivation. Looking at his shameless look, her face turned redder. This was serious nonsense. Thanks to Xinjing for the 2 monthly passes, and to Lu Ruobinjian for the 1 monthly pass. End of this chapter. The contemporary academic god is secretly a charlatan. Author, Luo Meyer. Chapter 200. Chapter 200 is finally back. Han Yexuan turned off the light, and under the moonlight, he stared at Mu Qingjian with his emotional eyes. Qing'er, is that okay? She nodded shyly, yeah. Having been holding it in for half a year after getting permission, now I can no longer control myself and press on. She begged for mercy all night to no avail. After all, how could a man who had eaten meat let go of the meat in his mouth? Even if the moon didn't sleep, they wouldn't sleep either. He wasn't willing to let her go until the sky got darker. She was trembling all over and had to admit that he was too powerful. Han Yexuan hugged her and said, Qing'er, don't look at me like that, because I'm afraid I won't be able to control myself again. That, I fell asleep. After saying that, She closed her eyes and went to sleep, fearing that if he pulled her into doing it again, she might not be able to bear it anymore. I'm just teasing you, go to sleep. By the time Mukinjian woke up again, it was already past 11 in the morning. She stood up with a shy look on her face, walked to the bathroom with bare feet, and looked at herself in the mirror. She has a tall figure and perfect curves. She may have just given birth to a baby, and her proud can be seen even in her pajamas. Looking at the area under the neck where Han Yexuan had sucked it, there were some reddish strawberry marks. Fortunately, it recovered quickly. He took out the medicine from the space and applied it on himself. The hickey soon disappeared. While she was taking a bath and changing clothes, he walked in. His tall body stood at the door of the bathroom and said, "Ching-er, you can go downstairs for lunch. Don't soak for too long." She let her hair down, "Okay, got it?" When she came out, she saw that he was dressed in casual clothes. It had been a long time since she had seen him dressed like this. He stepped forward and hugged her tightly, smelling the faint fragrance of her body. "Let's go." "Okay. Get down. Don't hug me, don't keep them waiting too long." "It's okay, they will understand us, we are young people after all." A young man who is 5,000 years old, she said amusingly. A fond smile appeared on Han Yexuan's lips. "What's the matter? Can't you be a young man at 5,000 years old? I thought my husband had already proven himself in the early morning. It seems that Ching-er's behavior towards her husband I'm not very satisfied. Do you think I'm too old? It seems that I have to work harder tonight. I don't want to pay attention to you anymore, you're a big bad guy." Looking at her fleeing back, he burst into laughter. "Haha, even if my husband is a bad guy, he is only bad to you." Mu Xiao and the others looked at Mu Qingjian's shy look, and they all understood it tacitly. "Sister, it's time for dinner. Grandma cooked what you like." She pulled out the seat and sat down. "Okay, there are so many delicious foods." "Thank you, Grandma." Grandma Bo smiled kindly, "As long as you like it, Xiao Yan. If you have anything you like to eat, tell Grandma. You've only had the baby for a month, so you need to take good care of it, okay?" Looking at Grandma's worried face, she smiled happily. "Okay Grandma, I want to eat the braised pork and salt and pepper shrimp that Grandma made tonight." "Haha, okay, Grandma will cook it for you tonight." Dandan and Juhu were already extremely greedy. "Master, we are hungry, can we start eating?" "Okay, grandparents, let's eat." Grandma Bo held the meat for Dandan and the others. "Okay. You two little guys eat more, and tell Grandma if you want to eat anything." Dandan smiled sweetly, her cute bun face bulging with food, and swallowed. "Grandma, I want to eat big chicken legs, big lobsters, and roasted suckling pig. Lots and lots of meat." Grandma Bo looked at the person with tiny who ordered oversized food, and said helplessly, "Okay, but you can't waste food." Dandan giggled, "Grandma can't do that. Dandan can finish it. If he can't finish it, give it to Juhu." Juhu nodded at the side, "Yes, Grandma, if you can't finish the balls, I will finish them for her." Everyone is obviously used to seeing Juhu, and they are still very happy to pet Dandan. Everyone couldn't help but smile and look at this pair of little enemies, they were so cute. When everyone finished lunch, Mu Qingjian planned to visit Yin Qingja and the others. Boy smiled and said, "Xiao gave birth to a daughter and a son. The daughter is over 6 years old this year, and the son is 3 years old this year. By the way, Tang Yuj and Zhang Minmin also got together 2 years ago, and now they also have a 1-year-old son." "Really? Xiao and their children are already so old, and Xiaoji and Minmin are also together, which is great. I'll go and see them later." Boy handed her a new mobile phone. "This is the new mobile phone I bought for you. Your mobile phone must be outdated." There are cards in it with the contact numbers of Xiao and Ach. You can just call them. I haven't told them you're back yet, so they don't know you're back yet. Okay, thank you uncle, you are very considerate. Bo Yi touched his head and said, haha, don't praise me, I will be embarrassed. When everyone saw him like this, they all laughed at him. After finishing her meal, she took out her new mobile phone and dialed Yin Qingji's number. Only when the phone was connected, a familiar voice came from inside. Hello. She didn't speak for a while, lost in memories. Hey, are you still there? If you don't say anything, I'll die. It's me, Xiao, long time no see. How have you been in the past few years? Yin Qingji was stunned when she heard the familiar voice on the other end of the phone, and Mu Qingjian's face instantly appeared. Soon she had tears in her eyes and said in disbelief, it's you, Xiao Yanyan, right? You're back, right? Yes Xiao, I'm back. Hearing her affirmation, she burst into tears uncontrollably. You, Xiao Yanyan, you are finally back. It has been more than 7 years. I have missed you so much. It has been 7 years since you disappeared, Wu. Mu Qingjian felt warm in her heart when she heard her crying. Okay. Don't cry, Xiao. I'm back now. I miss you too. Let's meet. I'll wait for you at the old place. Zhang Xingrui and old man Zhang were stunned when they suddenly heard Yin Qingji crying like a mess. Zhang Xingrui walked to her side anxiously, hugged her into his arms, and comforted her. Why are you crying? Okay, my wife, stop crying. She hugged him while crying and laughing. Xingrui, Xiao Yanyan is back. She is really back. She asked us to meet at the old place. The old man Zhang next to him looked shocked. What, Mu Yetu is back, haha, she is back. Haha, good. Zhang Xingrui also said happily, then let's go there quickly. We can't keep her waiting any longer. Yin Qingji smiled and nodded, okay, I'm going to change clothes. It's impossible for me to meet Xiao Yanyan like this. Okay, then go and change your clothes quickly, and I'll drive. Soon Tangyuj and Zhang Minmin also received her call. They were also very excited and drove to the old place to meet. End of this chapter.